Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we've got a spring list for 2023, but this is not just going to be any spring list. This is actually going to be the Ram vintage spring list. And so today we're going to have 20 fragrances for spring 2023, all vintage. So they're all going to be prior to the year 2000. So most of these are from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And there's a lot of fragrances on this list that are discontinued, so just know that right off of the bat. Some of these may be a little hard to track down. You may have to do some digging. You may have to get with friends. You may have to, search eBay or, dig up some partials or, get with your contacts. Or they're going to take some work to find sometimes. Some of these are easier to find than others, but these are all vintage fragrances. Some are still in production. Many are discontinued. And this is going to be a vintage spring list. But first, some news. In a week from today, so it is going to be on Wednesday, March the 8th at 4 o'clock Central Time, we are going to have a live stream. And on said live stream is going to be Clandestine Laboratories. And so Mr. Sage will be on the live stream with us, who makes and perfumes and bottles, and he basically does everything himself. He's like a true one-man shop. He makes the perfumes, he bottles them, he puts the stickers on, and so this is the only one that I have in my collection. It's called Film Noir, and so Film Noir is a fragrance that I will wear as my scent of the day. Again, Mark Sage will join us on Wednesday, March 8th, 2023, at 4 o'clock Central Standard Time. We're going to have a live stream where you guys can join, ask questions. I'll be really excited to hear about his journey and how he kind of got into this, got into making his own fragrances, and learn a little bit about him. And he's going to hopefully, we'll get a sample set to me in the next week so I can kind of sniff along and talk, and we can share his journey and knowledge. And I'm very excited about that. So very blessed to have Mark on the channel in a week's time. That's the first set of news. The second set of news, speaking of vintage Ram Duck information, it is Rich Mitch's day to change over his collection to the spring and summer collection. He basically splits his collection in half, and it has become a little bit of a tradition. Every March 1st, just today, we wear Green Irish Tweed. So this is my scent of the day, Green Irish Tweed. It has actually been, I think, almost exactly a year. I think I wore this March 1st of last year, and that's it. I haven't worn it since. And so I'm really enjoying wearing it today. Green Irish Tweed, of course, is a Pure Bourdon classic, 1985. It's got that beautiful lemony iris. It's got this freshness to it, of course, this dihydromercenol freshness, which came to really dominate the 80s, along with the beautiful Florentine iris and violet note. So you get a little bit of this violet leaf combination as well, but just a touch, not anything. Don't think Fahrenheit. It's very fresh. Creed ambergris in the base, rolling hills. Think about stuff like that. Fresh countryside. Think Irish fresh countryside, and that beautiful Creed sandalwood. We're going to talk about a couple notes today, and you're going to see a theme in my spring list that continually gets repeated. So number one, there's going to be a lot of lavender and sandalwood fragrances. Those are beautiful notes for spring for me. You'll also see a lot of fougères. I like wearing my green fougères in the spring and summer, personally. Those are my favorite time to wear the fougère. Some people prefer to wear them in the winter. I prefer to wear them in the spring and the summer. But Green Irish Tweed is my scent of the day. This is a 2014 bottle. Actually, it's right here. You can see right here, it's 14A01. And 2014 is the year Creed actually switched to their old sprayer style. So the first half of the year, the sprayers were the vintage fire hose sprayers, which just dumps juice on you. I should have waited because I just sprayed. I should have waited to the video to show you how crazy this atomizer is. And then I've got a bottle I actually went through, which is a 2014 M01, so later half of the year. And in M01, it's the new sprayer. So This is the year that Creed switched the sprayer over. I love these old fire hose atomizers, whatever you want to call it. Green Irish Tweed, scent of the day. I stand with Rich Mitch for his March 1st, collection switchover. So that's the scent of the day. And so this is going to be a top 20. And I have an honorable mention. And the reason I have an honorable mention is because I have it right here on this card. I haven't put it on skin yet. I've only sprayed it on paper. And yesterday I did a haul. And that haul was from a friend called Sticks. And Sticks sent me a couple fragrances in that haul. And I've included a couple of them in this list, or we're going to talk about a couple of them today. But first, we're going to do another quick haul. This is actually not a haul that I purchased. This is a set of samples that was very kindly sent to me by a friend. So Tim, thank you very much. So happy to have finally gotten your package here, and very excited to see what you sent me. These are from just basically like a fragrance friend, you could say, a fragrance friend in the community. All right, so I did not pay for these. These are some samples that he wanted to maybe see me talk about. Let's see what he sent. Can't wait. Oh, yeah. Ah, yes, that's right. I am remembering now. It is coming back to me. All right, let's see what we got here. Exciting stuff, eh? Speaking of hauls, so the first thing is, let me open this little baggie. Let's see what he sent me. Let's see what these little decants are. I love exploring the new houses, stuff I've never smelled. And this is such a great way to do it. Thanks to you guys in the community, I can get my nose on so much more that would just be, very cost prohibitive. It's very expensive to just buy sample sets and stuff like that. I usually won't even waste my money on sample sets. And it's easier not to waste your money on sample sets when you have friends in the community that are willing to share. So he sent me, so first of all, this is, so we've got a couple things here. The first thing we have is we've got Fragrance du Bois New York Intense. Okay, now I've never smelled New York Intense, but I hear that New York Intense is actually supposed to be a New York Intense is supposed to be a take on Amouage's Jubilation for men, Jubilation 25 for men. And New York Intense, which also happens to be the name of a Parfums de Nicolai fragrance that I particularly like. So New York Intense came out in 2020, and tied to this sample is also a sample of Jubilation 25 for men. I guess this is the new one. This is the new version that everyone's been talking about. Doesn't last, is my guess. That's my guess why he sent that to me, along with New York Intense. And New York Intense is compared to Jubilation 25 for men, which Pierre Constantine Gueros is the perfumer. So that'll be an exciting comparison video, or maybe I'll just sniff it on a live stream. And then we've got Enrico Artemisia. Enrico Artemisia. I'm not familiar with this one at all. Never heard of it. Onyrico. Enrico. There it is. Enrico Artemisia. Here we go. 2018. Sweet, fruity fragrance with ginger, caramel, champaca, orange, musk, amber, vanilla, candied ginger. The fragrance was inspired by the Italian Baroque painter Artemisia Gentileschi. Never heard of him. Interesting. All right, let me mark it as a decant or else I'll forget all about it. Have to mark my decants on Parfumo. Okay, so Fragrance Du Bois, New York Intense. This is Bond number 9, Dubai Gold. Ah, interesting. I've been wanting to smell this line from Bond number 9. They're just so prohibitively expensive. And after some of the things Bond number 9 has pulled in the past, I won't, purchase any more of their stuff, basically. Especially once I found out that they shut down Sebastian's channel a long time ago for something that he said about their fragrances. I won't spend money on them anymore. Dubai Gold, this one's called. I'm still interested in smelling it. I just won't spend the money. Dubai Gold, number 20. Okay, 2017 this came out. It's an oriental spicy fragrance with saffron, sandalwood, brandy, gaiac wood, amber, musk, ginger, patchouli, bitter orange, and cedarwood. Interesting. Very interesting. I bet you I'll like it. I like the way that Bond number 9 does some of those oud fragrances. Alexander McQueen Parfum. I want to say someone might have sent me a sample of Alexander McQueen recently. Alexander McQueen. Parfum. Alexander McQueen. Parfum. Ah, from 2016 this must be. Pink pepper, clove, black pepper, jasmine, sambac, tuberose, Comorian, ylang ylang, and vetiver. Interesting. Okay, that'll go on the list. And we've got a handful more, and then I'll show you the sample set. So Guerlain's Gourmand Coquin. Gourmand Coquin. I've heard about this. I've just never smelled it. So Gourmand COQ. 2008, yes, it's discontinued. Oh, no, it's not discontinued. I thought maybe it was discontinued. It says it's not discontinued. LVMH, it's a gourmand with, go figure, right? With black pepper, smoked tea, rose, chocolate, and rum. I've heard good things about this. So that's exciting. And then we've got Mikilef Ylang in Gold. Are you guys familiar with this one? Ylang in Gold. Oh my goodness, look at the color of this juice. It almost looks like nail polish remover. Look at that. Is that actually Mikilef's juice? That is insane. Wow. That is crazy. Okay. Ylang and Gold. So this is a 2012 release. And yeah, the juice looks like nail polish remover. It's discontinued. Geranium, citrus fruits, ylang, sandalwood, vanilla, and probably castoreum. It says coconut, but I doubt there's coconut in the base. And then we get Perfumum Roma, Dulcis in Fundo. I've heard Zhao talking about Dulcis in Fundo. Dulcis in Fundo. Dulcis in Fundo. 2001 release. Wow. It is a sweet gourmand fragrance with vanilla and Sicilian citrus fruits. And then we have Frappan 1270. This used to be a hype beast. This was hyped heavily back in the day. I've never smelled it, though. 1270 by Frappan. 2008, they came out with an extreme version last year. I've never smelled either. Candied bitter orange peel with prune, hazelnut, raisin, cacao, tonka bean, coffee, spices, pepper, immortelle, linden tree, grape blossom, precious woods, vanilla gaiac wood, and white honey. Okay? Very interesting. And we have M. Mikilef Royal Vintage. I think someone sent me a sample of Royal Vintage. I just haven't gotten to it yet. I think, is that the one that's supposed to smell like Aventus? Royal Vintage 2013. Yeah, this is the one that's supposed to smell like a Ventus. Yeah, someone sent me a decant of that, I think. And then we've got Hermes 24 Faulberg. I think Rachel sent me a couple Faulberg. I just haven't gotten to them yet. '24 Faulberg Eau de Parfum, 1995. Yeah, it's a Maurice Roussel and Bernard Bourgeois creation. Yeah, I've got a couple mils of that floating around somewhere. Excellent. This is awesome, Tim. Thank you, my friend. Very much appreciated. Let me put these up here, because otherwise I will lose them. All right. All right, all right. And then we have this. Have you guys heard of this brand? Unique Luxury. I have never smelled anything from this brand before. But look at this presentation. What a discovery set, eh? Look at this discovery set. Comes like this and like this. Wow. Just the smell emanating is not promising. I can tell you that right now. That is not promising, but I give everything its due. So I will be fair with all of these. This will make for a great couple live streams of blind testing these. Unique Luxury Chypre Toscano. Okay, this will be fun. This will be awesome, man. I love the presentation. Great little presentation with the foam. And apparently that's what the bottles look like. I don't see very many people talking about this brand. But yes, it'll be a fun little discovery set to dive into. Gives you the notes on the back. Cool little sample set, I'll tell you that. All right, awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much, Tim. That's awesome, man. You guys are very, very generous. Speaking of generous, since we're talking about the haul yesterday from Styx, before I did that quick unboxing, that ended up taking 15 minutes. There were 3 fragrances in that haul yesterday. 2 are on this video. 1 isn't. Let me tell you the one that wasn't on the video that didn't have a spot, because I wore this to bed last night, Leather Oud from Fleurs, and I'll tell you what, the first couple hours, I liked this much better than any of the Xerjoff ouds that I've recently tried. And, you know, I've been getting into the real ouds, the Ensars and the Russian Atom and the Bortnikovs lately. So these sort of, you know, Western oud fragrances, if you will, haven't been moving me as much. And but this one I really liked the first couple hours. Really liked the first hour, to be honest with you. But when I woke up in the morning, it smelled like what I described in a comment as synthetic soup. And so I feel like if they just used a little higher quality materials in the dry down, this would be an amazing... I would still tell you to buy this over any of those Xerjoffs at triple the price. But yes, I really like that. I wore it to bed last night. It was not bad. And one that I have sprayed on the card, and this is going to be our honorable mention, and then we'll get into the 20 fragrances for spring in the vintage style. Vintage fragrances for spring 2023 is this little bad boy, Trussardi L'Uomo. And this is basically a take on a sparkly, sort of sour tomato leaf fragrance. So Trussardi's L'Uomo, 1995 release is what it is. It's woody, it's fruity. It's got lavender, the tomato leaf with some fruity notes and florals, and a dry down of like vanilla, tobacco, patchouli. Very easy to wear, I would say, fresher style fragrance, but with woods, and that tomato leaf note is very is front of mind. I mean, probably one of the best tomato leaf fragrances, but I didn't want to put it in the top 20 since I've never put it on skin. Only a card, only a blotter. But I like what I'm smelling so far. It is discontinued, okay? Even though it's from 1995, it's discontinued. So let me recommend, let's start the top 20 by a tomato leaf fragrance that I can recommend. And this is called What About Adam by Joop. And this is also discontinued. And What About Adam came out in 1997. So it actually came out a couple years after Trussardi L'Uomo. And they probably, actually, this probably inspired this, to be honest with you. The difference is this is a little bit more sharper. This is created by Khalees Becker. And this has tomato leaf, it has mint in the top, and it has blackcurrant. And that combo, I've found, it still has the lavender, it has the woods, it has the sandalwood and the cedarwood. And you know, sandalwood from back in the day, many of these older style sandalwood fragrances that I'm going to talk about is a different type of sandalwood than what you're going to smell nowadays. So for example, if your idea of sandalwood is something like this, Le Labo Santal 33, you will be in for a shock if you've never smelled some of these vintage fragrances, because this kind of more modern take on sandalwood really amplifies sandalwood. It makes it very punchy. That's a good word for it. It makes it punchy. Sandalwood was never supposed to be punchy. Sandalwood was supposed to be kind of milky and soft and creamy and spongy, and it added this layer of elegance, almost like meditative, you know, almost like you're going to meditate and go off to another world. That's how sandalwood is supposed to smell in a fragrance. And that's the type of sandalwood that you're going to get in most of these vintage fragrances. It's a different smell than what you're used to smelling. And when you look at the list that I've composed, you're going to find a lot of sandalwood-based scents. They're beautiful for spring, but the old style sandalwood. If you wear Santal 33 on a 90-degree day, you will choke everyone else out. You're going to smell like a dill pickle factory, okay? And it's different in the old days. So this has a base of vanilla, vetiver, labdanum, and oak moss. And so I think just on first sniff, I think I like What About Adam just a little bit more than Trussardi L'Uomo, but I'm glad to have both. Two of basically the most legendary tomato leaf fragrances that are out there for guys, for men. Yes, What About Adam? Discontinued as well. This is a Lancaster bottle. It's a 75 ml Lancaster bottle. You can still find bottles kind of floating around out there, but What About Adam is the one that I can recommend since I know it. Okay, so that was number 20, although this is not a ranked list, so I'm not really going to do a countdown or anything, but that was the first one from the list, is What About Adam? And then we have another, let's go back to the House of Trussardi. Now, here's the one that I will recommend for spring. This is an amazing spring fragrance, by the way. It takes on some fougere type aspects, even though it goes a little bit more powdery than, you know, some of these other fragrances that I'm going to talk about. It still has this lovely combination of lavender and herbs and green. It's extremely green in the opening, almost like one of the greenest fragrances you've ever smelled, but with a twist, and that is Trussardi Action. And there is also, be careful, because there's a Trussardi Action Sport. Okay, so this is Trussardi Action. I've never smelled the Sport flanker, but Trussardi Action came out in 1990, and I don't know who the perfumer is, but it's kind of this fresh, spicy fragrance that opens up with a huge burst of deep green. You've got galbanum. So you got the sticky resinous galbanum with artemisia and peppermint, okay? And herbal coriander and rosemary. Very masculine opening, extremely masculine. And it's got these fougere touches. It's got the lavender, it's got the tonka bean to make it a proper fougere, and it's got bergamot on the top, and cyclamen and oak moss. And the oak moss here smells of the old style, but it's very musky. It's like a musky dry down. So I think for someone like me who likes to wear fougeres in the heat, in the warmer weather, and in Texas, you know, in March and April and May, we could have 100-degree days, we could have 50-degree days. The weather's all over the place, but normally it's going to be 70, 80, 90, let's say, in that range. you know, this is one that fits perfectly into that. And you can see it's not like a deep dark green color that they've chosen. It's almost like a teal. And that's actually a really good descriptor, because there is a bit of freshness. There's neroli in the top as well. So even though I mentioned all these deep dark green notes, there's also neroli, which freshens it up. It adds a little more of that, you know, like we're heading into the 90s. Although for me, when I think about Trussardi Action, I think about this more of it as an 80s fragrance. Yes, it came out in 1990, but you have to think of it in terms of the 80s, because it feels like it's an 80s baby. Just the way that the notes all come together. Beautiful though. For a fougere lover, again, one that no one talks about, Trussardi Action. And this is a little 25 ml that I picked up from Le Parfumé. I don't know what the big bottles go for, but I got a pretty good deal on that one. And then next on the list, we have a Serge Lutens, and I have to give a special thanks to my friend who still wants to remain anonymous for now. I'm trying to get him to come on. You know, if you've watched my huge Serge Lutens haul video, is basically what I called it. It was a live stream where I mentioned there were 17 bottles of Serge Lutens that he ended up sending to me for free, and this was one of them. And when I first got this, someone I really trusted, and really trust, Andy, said that, you know, this could be one for the wife. This might be too much for you. And I thought he was right, because it is very floral. But Margie Noir said, no, try it on your skin, Ramsey, because when I sprayed it on card, I was like, whoa, Andy is absolutely right. This is extremely floral. Lots of tuberose and jasmine, white florals. And those aren't my favorite to wear, right? They're not my favorite thing to wear. So Margie Noir came along and said, hey, try it on skin. I love that on a guy, especially in the warmer weather. And so I did. I tried it on skin, wore it to bed once, and it is absolutely beautiful. I could easily put this in the list. And you know what switched it for me on my skin, what ends up coming out much more is the spice. You know how Serge Lutens, he does a couple things very unique in my mind. Number one is woods. Number two is spice. And the way that he does this cumin spicy thing, there's some nutmeg, there's some hibiscus seed in here, is just stunning. It's Fleur d'Oranger. Now, warning though, when you first spray this, you're going to get a blast, a huge blast of white flowers. There's orange blossom, there's Indian tuberose, and jasmine. And it does not play. I mean, it's in your face, almost like headache-inducing white flowers. Let it dry down. It changes. You get a lot of spice later on, okay? I'm just going to turn the light on real quick because it got dark on me. Okay, next on the list. So that's Serge Lutens Fleur d'Oranger from 1995. Next on the list, we have a fragrance from 1992. By the way, the Serge Lutens is still available for purchase. I don't know what the new version is like, though, because this is a vintage bottle. So I don't know what the new version of Fleur d'Oranger is like, but it is still available for purchase. All of the other ones we've talked about so far are discontinued. Okay, next on the list, we've got another discontinued fragrance. And again, one that hardly anyone talks about. And again, I would consider this another fougere, or a take on a fougere, if you will. An amber fougere is how I would probably categorize this, because it's got that ambery, musky labdanum with vanilla and benzoin and tonka in the dry down, but it's a fougere. It's Pierre Cardin Enigma. And Enigma comes in a bottle that, if you saw the cap kind of comes like this. I don't have it because this is a tester without a cap that I got from Manouche. Pierre Cardin Enigma cap, you'll see that it kind of finishes it off to where it looks like you're looking at somebody in a fencing mask. That was the bottle. Look how cool that is. This is 1992. And they're doing bottles like this. You can kind of see his face, his jawline right here. This is where the fencing mask is. Here's his neck, right? And this would be the top of his head, his hair. And I just love that the houses back in the day took the time, to make these type of bottles. They don't do that anymore. You don't get that anymore. You don't get that kind of time and dedication from the houses. Now, they just take the Tom Ford route. Make one bottle one standard bottle and stick everything in there, you know, for the private blends. Make one standard bottle for, you know, when he used to do like Tom Ford for men and Extreme and his vetiver fragrance, which is, there's just too many fragrance names, I can't remember. Gray vetiver, right? They just stuck all those in one bottle, right? That's how they save money, is by doing one bottle and just put everything in there. Back in the day, every fragrance used to have its own individual bottle. And actually, most people don't realize this, but the mold of the bottle is actually the most expensive part of the fragrance. It is, it's not the juice normally, it's the mold of the bottle. And so to get around that, now houses have these standardized bottles, which is a shame because I love the old individual bottles from back in the day. But what about the juice? Well, it's woody, it's spicy. There is that lavender again. Lavender is a perfect spring note for me. It's masculine, it's herbal. There's lavender mixed with tarragon. Tarragon's one of my top secret notes. A lot of times if I see tarragon, I know I'm going to end up loving it. It gives off a slightly anisic-like quality with geranium, carnation, cinnamon. There's a note of fern, but ferns don't have a smell. So they're trying to tell you that it's kind of in the fougere aspect with jasmine, rose, tonka bean, amber, cedar, oak moss, musk, sandalwood, vanilla, benzoin, labdanum, and patchouli. So big note listing. There's one note that I smell though when I spray this that I don't see listed, and that's clove. I think there's a clove note in here that is not listed, but yes, imagine kind of a spicy, woody, almost slightly leathery take on a fougere. Even though there's no leather note listed, that labdanum gives off this slightly leathery, smoky, you know, earthy type quality, but a beautiful fragrance for spring. Pierre Cardin's Enigma, discontinued sadly, but a beautiful fragrance. Pierre Cardin made some great fragrances back in the day. Excuse me whilst I hydrate. Okay, next on the list, we have another discontinued fragrance from 1981. And this is Calvin by the house of Calvin Klein. And you can see this is an old Calvin Klein cosmetics quart bottle. What can I say about this? This is such a great fragrance. And what an influential fragrance this is, too. So this opens up with mugwort and narrowly. It's spicy. It's green. It has tarragon again, a winner. One note that this has that kind of really sets it apart in my mind is chamomile. And chamomile adds this almost herbal, relaxing tea. You know, I think of chamomile tea, but it's like a relaxing note to me. And this is a very relaxing type of fragrance. Whenever I wear this, even though it's extremely old school, one time when I was wearing this, one of my neighbors told me I smell like his uncle. And I said, I'll take that as a compliment, because at least your uncle smelled like a man back in the day, right? Not like today, this sweet, praline, disgusting sickness that they all wear. So I said, I will definitely take smelling like your uncle. But this is a calming, for me, it's calming. I feel at home wearing this. There's some cinnamon leaf in here. There's oak moss, of course, big oak moss in the base, patchouli, vetiver, musk, and sandalwood. And for me, there's two Calvin Kleins, and they were both made in the 80s. My favorite Calvin Kleins of all time, this and Obsession for Men. Those are the two best Calvin Klein fragrances ever created. But this might be my favorite, just because of the style. I love this style of perfumery. This green, woody, earthy, spicy, you know, just IFF created this. Some of the perfumers at IFF in 1981. It's kind of a unicorn nowadays and very hard to find, but you know, if you're into this kind of stuff, this is a must sniff. You'll love the style if you love the vintage masculines like I do. That's where my heart's at. Okay, next we're going to jump forward a decade. We're going to go to 1992. And we're going to go to the house of Paloma Picasso. And this is actually the only fragrance in my collection from this house now, since I sold off the newer bottle of Paloma Picasso from the 80s. I would love to find a vintage of that original Chypre for women. But this one's from 1992. And it's called Minotaure. So this one's called Minotaure. And Minotaure... is now being marketed. It's still available, but it's being marketed by L'Oreal. And as usual, I'm going to tell you to hunt down a vintage. This particular one is made by Cosmere. You can't see because of it's literally in the smallest print you can imagine, and it's underneath the AU25. But it says yeah, it says yeah, you can see the Cosmere. You really have to look, but this is a Cosmere bottle, and it's a Oriental style fragrance. But the reason this works for me is because of the fruitiness. So there's this fruity aldehydic, kind of easy to wear. There's still tarragon. Okay, my hidden ingredient is still here, with a little bit of galbanum. It's not as heavy as some of the, it's not as heavy as like Trussardi Action or something like that, with geranium, lily of the valley, jasmine, rose, tonka bean, vanilla, musk, sandalwood, amber, and cedar. And so if you know fragrances like Roma Uomo by Biogiotti, which that brand will come up again later, but Roma Uomo came out with a fragrance in 1992, same year as Minotaure, and they get compared to each other. And Roma Uomo was done by Enigma. Okay, I don't know who did. Oh yes, Michel Almerac did Minotaure. That's right, Michel Almerac did Minotaure. So two all-time great perfumers kind of dueling it out in this style, and this is kind of unique to me. I haven't really smelled anything like this, but to be fair, I haven't smelled Roma Uomo either. But I really enjoy this for the heat, for the warm weather. This is beautiful. It just works. It's kind of a throwback, old school. It has that warm. Some people say there's this sandiness to it. I can't say I really get sandiness, but I do get this warmth, this ambery warmth from the vanilla and tonka and fruits. And, the 90s was kind of the decade of the easier to wear fragrances. And now we're getting into that. The Calvin, I feel more at home with stuff like this, but I could see how somebody who doesn't love vintage perfume the way that I do would say, this is easier for me to wear. Okay, let's go back to the 80s. Let's go back to the year 1985 and talk about a fragrance that no one talks about, or hardly anyone talks about anymore, and it deserves its flowers. This fragrance deserves the hype. It deserves to be talked about because this is one of the, and when I say this, people are going to roll their eyes. As soon as I show you the bottle, people are going to roll their eyes. I'm telling you, this is one of the greatest lavender fragrances I've smelled. The lavender in here is absolutely stunning, gorgeous. The aldehydes in the top make it seem kind of sparkly. So you get citruses, you get lavender, you get spruce, which I think is a very underrated note, and petitgrain, and oak moss, ambergris, yes, ambergris, and maybe even real ambergris, who knows. This is 1985 after all. Cedarwood, vetiver, and musk. And for people who are like, I just don't understand, why would I want to go hunt down an old perfume? All you have to do is smell this. You smell something like this and you realize they sold this for like $5 in the 80s at drugstores and, cheap gas stations and stuff like that, and you will realize how bad fragrances have fallen off. This is the original from 1985, Adidas. So Adidas came out with the cologne, and this is thanks to Anuj for sending me this little partial here. It's spicy, it's citrusy, and it has this lavender that's just calming. I mean, listen to the tone of my voice after smelling it. I mean, it's literally like it just went straight to my brain and just said, calm down. You don't have to be so excited when you talk. Take a breath. That's the feeling of this fragrance to me. And it was apparently last marketed by Margaret Astor. What a fragrance. I mean, I wish I would have listened when I have a subscriber, Justin. He goes by Roger Graves now. He's been hyping this. He's been telling me, Ramsey, you have to try this Adidas. And, to my detriment, I didn't listen. And Anuj sent me this, luckily, or else I never would have I never would have had a chance to try it. But shout out to him for catching this and saying, Ramsey, you have to try the original Adidas. It's really something. Now, apparently, the later bottles had like this, I don't know, like this plastic that kind of went around the top and the side. I don't know if there's a difference between them. All I know is this is stunning juice. If you just blindfold me, I mean, it would take me a millennia to guess this was an Adidas fragrance. I never would have guessed it. The quality is outstanding. Okay, next on the list we have an Escada, and this is a spicy sweet fragrance. Some people may think that this might be geared better for colder weather because there's a lot of cinnamon and tonka and patchouli and amber and stuff like that, but I like it in the warmer weather, and this is Casual Friday. So Casual Friday, to me, smells like the best version of Le Male. Now, you may get upset at that if you're a lover of Casual Friday, because that might seem like a slap in the face, Le Male, but listen, it has lavender, it has that vanilla. Le Male was a huge hit in the mid-90s, gigantic. So there's no doubt in my mind, and this is a Dominique Ropion, by the way, there's no doubt in my mind. There's also tarragon in the top. There's both tarragon and anise. So tarragon is kind of the greener takes of it. Anise, there's both. There's tarragon and anise. Tarragon gives off sometimes these anisic-like qualities. There's herbal, coriander, lavender, which is also comes across as very herbal here. There's cinnamon, jasmine fruits, lily of the valley, carnation, cardamom, tonka bean, oak moss, amber, patchouli, cedar, and vanilla. And when you smell this, if you paid $300 a bottle for this, which that's what this is going for now, $300 to $400 a bottle, you're going to be probably disappointed when you first spray, because you're going to say, oh man, this smells like a designer. It really smells designer-esque, okay? However, this is the kind of, and this came out in 1999. This is the newest fragrance on my list, 1999. Discontinued, of course. All of Escada's masculines are discontinued. But there is something so easily wearable, and as soon as I smelled this, I was like, this is what Le Male should have been. This is the perfected Le Male, because the anise and the tarragon make it more masculine. Le Male is way too sweet. They've also toned the sweetness down. Even though there's tonka and vanilla and stuff like that in here, the sweetness is really toned down. So it's not something where, you know, for someone like me who doesn't like sweet fragrances, I still like this. I'm still glad I have it. Escada Casual Friday from 1999. All right, next on the list, we have a fragrance that deserves to get more talk on my channel, and it's perfect for spring, in my opinion. And this is an Otto Kern fragrance. It's actually the only Otto Kern I could, in good conscience, tell you to go buy. It's the only one in my collection. And I think it's the only one that the Otto Kern had a hand in. I think he passed away after this, and everything else that came after this was like, you know, big corporation stuff that they kind of took over and ran with. This is the one to go for. Ridiculous name, fantastic fragrance. Otto Kern Cycle. So Cycle, and you can see, you know, it's almost like a bell on a bicycle. You know, you can just hear the ring ring of the bell, right? God, perfect for spring. Green notes, woody notes. Okay, the note listing is shit. Green notes, woody notes, citrus fruits, mint, and blackcurrant, right? But what you get is you get almost this perfect, you know, some people say that Frederic Malle's, there's a cassis fragrance from Frederic Malle called, oh, hang on, I'll tell you. I will tell you what it was called. There's one that I'm thinking of that everyone talks about you have to smell if you're a lover of the note of cassis. And it is Une fleur de cassis. Une fleur de cassis, okay? This, to me, has that sort of very hard to work with cassis note. And it gives off this slightly pissy, green, you know, very masculine, zero sweetness in here, okay? There is some fruits, but think about unsweetened blackcurrant, okay? Unsweet with this pissy green quality that screams old school masculine. This came out in the early 90s, 1991. And, you know, to me, it gives me this, the leaves of the blackcurrant. Not the blackcurrant themselves, but I get much more of the leaves of the blackcurrant. And, you know, whenever you talk about the blackcurrant leaves, those are usually very bitter. And that's what I get here. Extreme amounts of bitter, green. It's just, you know, it's the type of stuff that I wish designers made today is the thing. You just don't see these type of fragrances anymore at all. And so this very aromatic, very green, you know, a fragrance that really just feels like it can kind of stand on its own 2 feet. There is some freshness to here as well. It's not all pissy. There's some mint, there's some freshness, there's some citruses. It dries down, very woody, but the bitter green, herbal, you know, confident facets of this fragrance is what really attracts me. Love cycle. And no one talks about it. I think the only person I've ever heard talk about this once was Chris from Scentland. That's it. And no one else talks about cycle. So, so yes, for spring 2023, cycle is on the RAM list. Okay, next on the list, we've got a Francesco Smalto fragrance. And it's not Smalto pour Homme. It's actually Molto Smalto. Now, Molto Smalto made the list over Smalto pour Homme because there's a fragrance at the end of the list today that actually reminds me of Smalto pour Homme. This one is all about 2 main notes, lavender and sandalwood. Again, the combination is a winning combination, and you might think it gets boring. It doesn't. It's rosemary, lavender, coriander, lemon with geranium, jasmine, clary sage, lily of the valley, a base of cedar, musk, sandalwood, and amber. And the sandalwood in here is absolutely stunning. One of the best modern, I don't think they're using Mysore sandalwood or anything like that, but you want to get a feel of how sandalwood fragrances used to be done, this is one to check out. The woody dry down, that cedar sandalwood combination is stunning. It's ambery, and you get that lavender, that herbal lavender in the top. It's just beautiful. Discontinued, but beautiful. So, Molto Smalto from 1992. Speaking of easy to wear fragrances, and this is still being marketed apparently by L'Oreal. I have the Eau de Parfum version on the way, which the Eau de Parfum I think is probably going to be more for winter or for colder weather. This is more, I think, year-round. I think this is easier to wear year-round because it doesn't project as much as the vintage or the Eau de Parfum. And this is the Eau de Toilette version of Opium pour Homme. Now, many people might think that, and Robes08 just highlighted this on his channel, and he said exactly what I was thinking. He said, you know what? I think this could be wearable in more situations than you would think now. So even though it has Tolu balsam and bourbon vanilla, and I got some on my nose, all this stuff that you look at and you go, wow, this is going to be a cold weather fragrance only. It doesn't wear that way. It wears very ethereal and airy, and, you know, it's a fragrance that I think can be worn all year round. It's blackcurrant and star anise in the opening, and that blackcurrant and star anise adds this depth, and he talked about that depth when he smelled it for the very first time. It's there. You wouldn't think that it's a complex fragrance, but when you sniff it, you realize what a beautiful fragrance that Jacques Cavalier created. It's pepper and what's called galangal in the heart. Now, galangal is like a specific type of ginger, and apparently each type of galangal has this scent profile that's different from the others, and so that's why they specifically listed it that way instead of putting it as ginger, apparently. And the base is bourbon vanilla, Tolu balsam, and Atlas cedar. So Opium pour Homme, Eau de Toilette. I have the Eau de Parfum on the way, hopefully very soon. Yeah, I mean, this is not just a winter fragrance to me. I think this would be great in the spring. So, Opium pour Homme from YSL. Now, we're going to talk about a masculine take on like a floral type fragrance. And this is Nino Cerruti pour Homme from 1979. Now, this is a true unicorn. Extremely hard to find. When you find it, people want a ton of money for it. It's long discontinued, so there's not a lot of stock out there. But it basically is this green floral, masculine floral. So you get lots of green touches and freshness in the opening. And the freshness is a combination of citruses and mint and juniper and stuff like that. There's stone pine in here. There's herbs, there's thyme, there's fruits, but the main thing is that floral heart is very prominent. So you get carnation and jasmine, and then you get this ambery, woody, green, oak moss, fir, benzoin, amber, dry down. And this is this version right here, Nino Cerruti pour Homme from 1979, is the perfected version of this to me. Givenchy's Encensé. So this came out in the 90s and kind of flopped. It was supposed to be like a masculine floral, right? And it kind of flopped. But this came out in 79. There is a big, to me, when I smell this, there is a big similarity between the two. And I never fell in love with this because of this. This is the master of this style to me. It's actually more masculine. This is, I think this leans more feminine than Nino Cerruti pour Homme. It doesn't have those old school 70s, like it's in the fresh 90s that Encensé came out, you know what I mean? And anyone can wear anything, but I think if you were a woman and you wanted to wear more of a traditionally targeted fragrance for women, you would go with Encensé over something like Nino Cerruti pour Homme, which even though it has woody aspects, even though it has the floral aspects, also those woody aspects and the green touches make it more traditionally masculine. I love this stuff. I'm so glad to have this bottle. Very hard to come by, but big fan of Nino Cerruti pour Homme. Perfect in the spring. Okay, speaking of perfect in the spring, we're back to Fougères, true out and out Fougère. This is Duc de Vervennes, and this is the La Extrême version. And so there's an original Duc de Vervennes, which came out in 1991. This is the La Extrême version. Main notes to my nose is this citrusy lavender opening with this oak moss and ambergris in the base. There are some other notes floating around that you can pick up. Like, for example, there's some herbal rosemary. There's also what some claim is cumin. I don't get a big blast of cumin in here. Maybe more nutmeg, geranium, but that oak moss absolute. Maybe they've used patchouli or patchoulol or something to try and, amp up that feeling of oak moss in the base, but it's very mossy. If you like the traditional fougères, if you like Dracar Noir and stuff like that, you'll dig this. This will be your style. And I don't know what year the Extreme version came out of Duc de Vervennes, but my guess is that it wasn't in the 2000s. I think it was sometime in the 90s, but I can't find a date. But the original came out in 1991. So yes, extremely good fragrance for spring. Very overlooked. Very few people talk about it, and it does have, people make fun of the cheap plastic gold cap, but I actually like it. I like the presentation. I just wish they did something a little different for the Extreme version other than just put Extreme on the sticker on the bottom. Okay, next on the list we have a Paco Rabanne fragrance. Rest in peace, Francesca Robinetta. This is XS pour Homme. Now, this is created by the great Gerard Anthony. I have to give a special shout out to Anuj from Enchanté for sending this to me. And XS pour Homme is... So you can see this metallic cap, right? It came out in 1993. You know what else came out in 1993? Chanel's Platinum Egoist. And this is the vintage bottle. This is what the original bottle looked like. So you can see this platinum idea kind of permeating the fragrance world in 1993. This is a creation by Rosanne Dumatou and Gerard Anthony, two legends of legends. Gerard Anthony is almost 80 years old. If I ever have a fragrance, man, would I love to have Gerard Anthony be the perfumer. This is corn mint, lemon, bergamot, juniper berry, geranium, coriander, rosemary, cedarwood, oak moss, and sandalwood. And on the back, this is a tester bottle. It actually says that there is musk, and I completely get that because there's this almost metallic twang of musk that you get sometimes. And I say metallic because of the platinum, reference. And there's also a note listed called wild flowers. Very interesting. You don't get wild flowers as a note very often, but very interesting note breakdown. I'm a fan. It's not my favorite Paco Rabanne, but I'm a fan. Perfect for spring, I think. Or even summer, but perfect for spring. And then, I know I talk about my love of jazz from the house of YSL, and I do. Jazz, the original jazz is by far my favorite. I'm a sucker for jazz. I think it's one of my favorite fragrances to wear from the house of YSL. It speaks to my soul. It's my kind of fragrance, you know what I mean? And they made a couple flankers, one of which is live jazz, which if this was a summer list, I would put live jazz here for sure. But the one we're going to talk about today is also from 1993, and it's a flanker called Jazz Prestige. Now, interestingly enough, you can see it says Eau de Toilette Concentré. So this is basically an eau de parfum. And on the box, okay, the box, which is somewhere back behind these doors, the box actually says Mysore Sandalwood on it. And the main notes to my nose are sort of this, fruity apple. So there's a big kind of fruit, maybe a couple types of fruit in here. Maybe there's blackcurrant and, a couple other things. But you definitely get this apple and sandalwood combination. So it's like fruity sandalwood with geranium, and it opens up a little bit minty, which I don't think there was much of a mint note, just a little bit though. Kind of like, how when I was talking about the mint note that's in Derby, it's just slightly, almost like an embellished mint. You know what I mean? Like you have to sometimes imagine it. That's how I think of the mint here. There's lavender, there's anise. Again, I love anise. Anise is such a perfect masculine note. There's coriander, there's pepper, and there's mace, which is kind of the lacy part around the nutmeg. There's fruity notes. I mentioned the apple, and cinnamon, caraway, ginger, rose, cypress, carnation, benzoin, oak moss, amber, leather, cedarwood, patchouli, sandalwood, and castoreum, but just a little bit of castoreum. This is much more in line with something like Jean Louis Vermeil for men. If you've ever smelled that, that has this blackcurrant, fruity apple thing going on as well. And they do smell very similar. Prestige by Jazz, beautiful spring scent. Okay, we're in the home stretch. 5 left. And next one on the list is going to be another Creed. Creed's a beautiful house for the spring and summer because everything they make is kind of this ambergris overdose, this salty ambroxan thing that they do so well that you can just spray yourself 10 times. You'll never overspray is what I'm saying. And this one's called Bois du Portugal. And Bois du Portugal, I think everyone pretty much agrees this is a Pierre Bourdon. It's not agreed upon on the like Parfumo or base notes or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure this is a Pierre Bourdon. It's bergamot, basil, lime, lemon, mandarin orange, lavender, pimento, clove, nutmeg, coriander, cedarwood, sandalwood, ambergris, vetiver, and patchouli. Just an out-and-out masculine, just a brilliant masculine creation. Again, lavender and sandalwood. Beautiful combination. Just a winning combination. If you've ever smelled Parfums de Nicolai, New York Intense, or New York. There was an original New York before New York Intense. You'll kind of have an idea of Bois de Portugal. So posh. You know, it's so just probably one of the smoothest Creed scents. And I have a theory. You know, this is a 2018 flacon, I believe. I have a theory as to why this one's held up so well when many of the others didn't. And this was made when Pierre Bourdon was at Takasago, is my theory. And, you know, Takasago is a Japanese company. And I think that they take much more pride in you know, the Japanese as a people, I think, are very prideful of their work. They're very attention to detail oriented, and they really care about the product they put out. And I think that because the oils, the contract with Bois de Portugal still has to go through Takasago for the oils, that they weren't cutting the formula like some other houses. I won't say any names, but that's one of the that's my theory on why I think Bois de Portugal lasted for so long as a solid formula. Like if you made me go pick a modern Creed, I would probably pick something like this. But yes, Bois de Portugal, amazing woody, spicy, beautiful lavender and sandalwood. Winning combination. Speaking of green fougere fragrances, this is kind of the king of lavender in many people's minds. And there's a little bit of funk here. There's a little bit of 80s funk here that you don't get with Bois de Portugal. This came out in 1989. It's called Sar by Van Cleef & Arpels. Just a perfect green fougere, just like you're outdoors, you know, you're in nature with the pine trees. Again, there's tarragon, winning notes, winning combination. There's rosemary, coriander, artemisia, neroli, lavender. And what sets this one apart, though, is that castoreum in the base and just a little bit of leather. And the castoreum may be even built into the leather accord. So there's this oak moss castoreum. It's very green, big oak moss. Beautiful, spicy green. These original bottles are, and you can see the short ingredient list there. But honestly, any bottle you can get now is great. I mean, this was at discounters for 25 bucks, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And now it's going for $300, $400, $500 a bottle. So SAR, you know, any version you can get your hands on, I think you'll be happy with it if you're a fan of that fougere category. Okay, we're going to go to 3 fragrances at the end. Very few people talk about. Number 1 is a fragrance from the house of Sorella Fontana. And I think this was a house run by a couple sisters. And this is called If for Men. And it comes in this little book. And the reason that I'm highlighting this, if you know Boucheron's Jaipur Pour Homme, Eau de Toilette or Eau de Parfum, that's an Enigma creation. This is kind of in that, you know, sandbox, if you will. There is a little bit more of this Italian freshness in the top for me. So you get lavender, galbanum, and myrtle in the top, with cinnamon, myrrh, basil, pimento, and sandalwood, vanilla, tonka, musk, and benzoin. And you wouldn't think that something like this would work with myrrh and vanilla and all these heavier notes. I'm telling you it does. This is a very versatile scent. I'm showing you the stuff I want to wear in spring. I might wear heavier fragrances in spring than you would, but I think this would work. Yeah, I think this would work. I don't really have a season, you know. I don't have a summer, spring, fall list. I wear whatever I want, whenever I want. And I didn't used to be like that, but I found that it's much more freeing, you know. I don't have this desire to have to rush to kind of wear things because it's spring or summer, or, you know, like I'm not going to get to wear them. Like if I want to wear green Irish tweed in the middle of winter, I can. And that's a very freeing feeling. And it also allows me, you know, to wear anything I want from my whole collection anytime. So I really enjoy that. I found that works best for me. So yes, 2 left. We've got the original Lacoste the original Lacoste from 1984. Now, I'm going to show you which version to look for. The one that you want is the one that says Sofapar on the bottom right here. Don't get the Procter & Gamble version, in my opinion. They've basically really neutered this fragrance. It's not what it was. The vintage versions have much more of that. This is, oak moss is extremely important to this fragrance. This is kind of like going to a country club. Like imagine you're going to a country club to play golf and you're surrounded by greens, literally greens. And there's lavender, clary sage, old school carnation, which is a very green. Carnation can smell very green in and of itself. There's oak moss, there's musk, there's vetiver, cedar wood, tonka bean, and amber. It's just like being in a country club. You know, it's that kind of posh, surrounded by nature, beautiful golf course. That's Lacoste, the original. And finally, I saved this one for last because I'm smitten with this. I wore it to bed last night for the first time. And I sent a message immediately to Rich Mitch and said, dude, go buy this right now. No screwing around. This is ram duck territory through and through. And this is the Biagiotti Uomo. Oh man, let me tell you something about Biagiotti Uomo. If you have ever smelled, oh God, if you have ever smelled Francesco Smalto's Pour Homme, and you know, if you go to Parfumo, don't read the comment that says common, boring Italian macho. Yeah, you know, maybe it is. Maybe it is Italian macho, but I absolutely love it. There is nothing boring about this at all. There's this, you know, it's definitely a take on a fougere, but it's the type of fougere that I really love. Again, it has tarragon and rosemary and coriander in the top, geranium, cedar, and patchouli in the heart, and oak moss, musk, amber, leather in the base. Leather. Beautiful leathery fougere dry down. Smoky, leathery, green, spicy. Very similar to if you've smelled Francesco Smalto Pour Homme. It has that leathery, smoky, Italian oak moss is the way that I've heard it described. And that's a perfect descriptor for this as well. This is a year or two after Francesco Smalto Pour Homme. Maybe it took notes from it. I have no clue, but I am in love with this. Is the find of the haul from yesterday. Yes, I enjoyed Floris Leather Oud. Yes, I enjoyed L'Uomo by Trussardi. But this, oh baby, this is ram duck territory through and through. So I am absolutely over the moon to have found this on a whim, blind like that. And that's the brilliant thing about vintage fragrances. This is why I love vintage for me, because more times than not, if I just blind buy a vintage fragrance I know nothing about, I'm more satisfied than if I spend 5 times as much on a niche, on a modern niche. You know, this was more than half the price of Leather Oud. I love it more, you know, and that's part of the issue with modern fragrances for me. That's why I love vintage so much. Man, what a creation this is. I wore this to bed last night. I was in love. Biagiotti Uomo. Discontinued, of course, but that's my spring list. That's a true vintage ram spring list. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what your favorites are. Let me know which ones you want to try. Let me know which vintage fragrances from the 70s, 80s, and 90s that you would include that is not listed on the spring list. And I appreciate everyone watching. Like and do all the stuff a normal YouTuber would tell you to do. Like and subscribe and leave a comment and all that good stuff. It does help the algorithm. And put it on your calendar. March 8th, 4 o'clock Central Time. Wednesday, March 8th. You know, Mark Sage from Clandestine Laboratories is going to join us for a chat. That'll be a lot of fun. So, I appreciate everybody watching. Cheers, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.